We talked about Nick Krall's comments last week, and we said it was kind of a nothing burger. How he said that everyone would be evaluated at the end of the season and that David Bell was under contract, but everyone will be evaluated. Well, looks like they evaluated him before the end of the season and cut ties with him on Sunday night after giving him an extension last season in July for 3 more years. The Reds are going to eat 2 years of that deal and let David Bell go home and hang out.
Yeah, I was very surprised to hear this. I thought they would give him at least another year, of course, with the contract, but also you figure with the amount of things that was outside of David Bell's control, figure give him the opportunity to see whether or not the anomaly of this year truly was or wasn't on his plate. So
Sure.
When this dropped, I was not expecting it.
No, but a lot of the things that David Bell can control, which is fundamentals, which was a lot of errors in the infield and outfield. The base running, where they were stealing bases and being successful, and then they got caught more than not, which is straight from the horse's mouth of Nick Krall. Those are things that you can control when you're a manager because you're doing it with your game planning, saying, hey, we're going to be aggressive on the base paths with a lot of reckless abandon.
Mm-hmm. And not really reining it in or figuring out how to adjust. It felt like other teams adjusted to our style of play, and we didn't take that necessary step.
Yep. It felt like every 2 out of 3 times Ellie got caught stealing because he would get to first and then just go. Mm-hmm. And it was like, where's the adjustment? Where's him baiting them? Where's the situation where it's like, hey, here's the tell from this catcher and this pitcher. From breaking down the film, this is what they do. This is who you're going to be seeing today. This is when you go. Instead of just being like, I'm Ellie De La Cruz. I'm fast. I'm going.
Yeah, they were figuring out stuff. There was a lot more pitch outs successfully being played against the Reds. So it did feel like they were able to, I guess, watch more film on seeing when the Reds style of play likes to go versus, us trying to analyze the opponent and figure out, okay, how can we improve now?
Exactly. And it never felt like they got better with it throughout the season. They were just like, this is what we do. We live and die by the sword.
It did really even feel like our steals went down, at least success rate, progressively throughout the year.
Right. Yeah, no, it did. It didn't. It felt very steady where it was a coin flip most of the time. Mm-hmm. So that is something the manager controls. That's something his staff controls. That's outside of the responsibilities of the general manager. Let's get that straight.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention, I'm going to throw on there as well, just thinking about small ball here. How many times did we see a player get thrown out at home for the Reds on a contact play, on some stuff? Like, how many times did a ground ball get hit to a third baseman that was playing up and one of our runners that was on third decided to run? There was a lot of contact plays that just, it seemed like were not working for the Reds. We kept doing it.
Yeah, and how many games did that cost them?
A ton.
And especially in one-run games, which is another thing Krall said in the press conference. Mm-hmm. It cost them, I mean, that's when you look at the Pythagorean theorem. That's when you look at the projections. That's when you look at the run differential. Mm-hmm. And you go, these are the things that cost us games to not match where we should have been and been in the playoff push. Was all of those things.
Yeah, the Reds did score a lot less runs this year. However, their run differential, actually, I'm not even sure if that's even correct what I just said. If they did score more or less runs than they did last year. But the run differential was bigger, but when you look at the amount of one-run games that they lost, it was a bunch. And that isn't on the side of the offense that's giving you those runs. That's in how the manager is applying that offense.
Sure. And one of the things that Krall didn't bring up, and I think that we're going to see a philosophy switch with the next person, whoever it may be, was putting your quote-unquote best pitcher, reliever, in the high-leverage situation, like bringing out Alexis Diaz in the 8th. And we have beat this horse to death, saying they did it with Raisel Iglesias, and then they did it with Alexis Diaz, and look how it worked out. And I think that's a philosophical difference right there. And that's another thing Krall said, is that our philosophies were not lining up. And I think that was probably one of the big differences where Bell was like, look, I'm going to use my guy who I think is going to give us the best chance in the situation. And Krall was like, well, he's actually just a closer. And Bell went, My team. I was here first.
Yeah, so those are things that I'd like to see more behind the scenes stuff. But the fact I was surprised that Krall was as transparent as what he was. Granted, he was still playing it close to the vest, but still, there was more answers that they got out of that press conference than I thought they were going to.
Yeah, Krall was obviously nervous. This was the biggest, probably one of the bigger moments of his career, a career-defining moment, honestly, that you're firing your manager before the end of the season like this. His first time doing this. And so, yeah, he's a little nervous. He's a little shaky. And he seems like a guy who really doesn't want to talk to people in general.
No, he seems wants to hang out behind a computer screen, look at his numbers, and figure out how this deck of cards is going to stack. So, yeah, not a guy that's going to be in front of camera a lot, but I felt he handled it well. And he did do, I think, a more than serviceable job of giving us enough of an answer into it and what, we are should get, because it's also someone losing their job, getting fired. So a lot of that stuff is going to be private. But I think they did show us enough of their philosophical differences to where it's just like, okay, we aren't going to find a nice path going forward. And
you could tell that the philosophical difference too. And when he said that, and then them also firing Jeff Pickler, game planning, fielding, manager. And then Bella's manager. Those are the two guys that you have pointed out. There's your problems. That's where we're going to start. Get them out of here. But I also think that the reporters in that room did a great job pushing and getting the answers from Krall, because I felt, you build a rapport being in that press room and talking with them every day. And this is one of those moments, too, where the writers are like, this is a big moment for me. I got to get the right answer. And they pushed hard enough, and then Krall was transparent enough. There was a few things where he's like, I like to keep that internal. And then he got pushed by Jason Williams, who I do not like his writing 99% of the time. But he went out there, and he said the big thing that got us the answer that we needed, which was, he's like, what philosophical differences did you disagree upon? I feel like you need to be more transparent considering the success this franchise has had the past 30 years. And then Krall, you watched his body language change. And he perked up and he went boom, 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 boom. You loved to see that.
Yeah, that was great, man. Put him up to the line. Give us the answer.
Yeah, come on.
This is why we're here.
Yep, you got to give us something to chew on instead of just putting out a press release on Sunday night at 10 p.m. This is where you said we're doing a presser, we're getting answers. And what also Krall said was that the decision was his and he approached ownership. And it wasn't a push from ownership. It was all on him, and that he wanted to make this move. This was his decision. Do you buy that?
Well, if he's going to be the one to take responsibility for it, I'll say that, there's a good chance that maybe the majority of this decision was his, but there's no way he's not having these conversations beforehand leading up to this with other people getting their input. So, yeah, he's the one making the call, and he's probably the protagonist of it, but there's probably other people that have similar, theories and agreements with him, but if he's the one saying he's responsible, then yeah, sure, he's responsible. Yeah,
I bet him, ownership and the GM, Brad Mender, had these conversations, and it was on their mind, and they were thinking about it, going, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we got to fix this now. We got to send the signal now, because if you send it now, you're also sending that you're going to really push in 25.
Yeah, that was the one. Well, a couple things. That was a positive thing I got out of this, is that they're introducing accountability regardless of the things that, all the variables that went into the season that may have been even outside the control of a manager. Just saying like, hey, we didn't get the outcome that we wanted, and there's some things that we just can't see eye to eye on, so why would we go down, a path that isn't going to get us to where the goal is?
Right. And let's also get started earlier. Even if it's a week, we can get started earlier. And not do it behind David's back, where that's weird. You're working in the same building, and you're making phone calls, and they'll be like, dude, it's like trying to get a girlfriend when you're still dating your girlfriend.
Yeah, just hedging your bets.
You're hedging, and then like one of those girls is going to call the other one and be like, did you guys break up yet? And she's like, no, I thought David was cool. And they're like, no, oh. Well, yes, I wanted to like hang out. They're like, Well, that's weird because he just asked me to go to the movies on Thursday. Oh, that's fucking weird.
He asked me to homecoming.
Right. He fingered my beef.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that situation where you might as well get him out of the building. Actually, well, he left the building, and then Nick was like, "Hey man, can you come back?" And then he came back, and he's like, "You're gonna need to grab your stuff.
By the way, on your way out of here.
You're on your way out of here. Gonna need your badge and your gun."
Yeah, initially I kind of felt like it was kind of like a bad move to fire someone like that close to the end of the season, but it's not uncommon for them to do that. But also, I kind of like the idea of them introducing a little bit of fear and the accountability, have that ripple through the clubhouse where these young guys are like, yeah, nothing's set in stone here, and we still need to produce.
Yeah. Hey, don't be comfortable. There's 5 games left. Clearly didn't work tonight, but it was still just like, hey, no one's safe.
Give them something to talk about.
Well, I mean, there are dudes who are safe, and we'll talk about that next week, but it's more of the idea where it's like, this isn't just same old business coming up in 25. We're really pushing.
Yeah.
The window is going to be open. Mm-hmm. The Cardinals aren't going to get any better.
Yeah, so I really enjoy that aspect of them saying, like, hey, no excuses here. We are pushing for playoffs.
Yep. We are pushing for playoffs. This is where this team needs to be. I think another reason that it happened early, not just for them to get a jump on it early, was on Saturday or Friday night. Mm-hmm. Brandon Williamson goes out there, and this is something that we had talked about all season. We're like, what's going on with his shoulder? What's going on with his shoulder? What's going on with his shoulder? We didn't hear anything. We heard he got an injection and that he should be fine. And then we watch him go out there, and we're like, where's his curveball, his best pitch? Mm-hmm. And then he finally started throwing it again. And then he goes out there, and his UCL snaps because his shoulder wasn't right. Mm-hmm. And then on Sunday, Hunter Green goes out there, throws 3 innings, and after having the incident with the cabinet with his elbow, why is he going back out there for 3 innings? You have him signed for a long-term deal, and you already lost Williamson for the whole year now because of this incident with his elbow when his shoulder should have been corrected. And like we've talked about, dude, when he was in San Francisco, he was a part of, player medical liaison kind of thing. Mm. And we saw it again this year with what happened with CES, what's happened with these weird injuries where it's like, Jamer's batting 121. Why is he batting 121? He looks awful. Oh, he's been playing with a broken toe for 3 weeks.
Yeah, or just trying to push it off on some other injury, and then that sort of thing, like, oh, it's not this, it's going to be this, and then that inflames the other injury. It seems like it was so strange the entirety of the year with having these medical issues, but it's just hard to pinpoint what exactly is going on here, and if there is something going on, like we saw Brandon Williamson. Was that going on the entirety of the year?
Yeah, and guess what? He was probably transparent with the medical staff, and he was probably like, I fucking know better than you. I'm David Bell. I did this with the Giants. I know my stuff, okay? And then let these guys play hurt or asking them to play hurt. And when you had that happen to Williamson where he's going to be out all of next year, and then you throw out the one dude who's under the long-term contract who is going to be the future of your rotation and is your ace after this season. You throw him out for 3 innings, I bet that Krall threw his hands up and he's like, I'm done. We can't have any more risk with these next 5 games. Just get him out of here.
Yeah, it just definitely puts the entire season under the microscope of figuring out what decisions were or weren't being made, what conversations were being had to get us to this point to where we couldn't handle injuries that should have been solved, that would have allowed a player to play majority of the season, and then all of a sudden, no, they are perpetually getting hurt. Yeah,
or TJ Friel. Think about that. He had 5 stints on the IL. And he came back, he would play a little bit, then he'd be hurt again. Come back and play a little bit, he'd be hurt again. Was he ever fully healthy until now? Could he have rested longer and gotten healthier and played and contributed more this year and given this team more wins if he was properly handled, either by the medical staff or properly handled by David Bell by letting him play. And the way that they fired him, I'm going to go with there was some meddling. We just have this whole year we've been thinking there was meddling.
It's the timing of it, of course, at the end of the year, but it came after another injury where a guy who was trying to get back, to be healthy and participate with this year, couldn't do it, and he has has a UCL tear on his third or fourth start coming back, and so that seemed to potentially be a point where there was irreconcilable differences coming from David Bell and Nick Krall. So if we have to really analyze the philosophical differences, this has to be something that you look at.
Yeah, I think this has to be the big one that isn't really being talked about by anybody. And it's kind of been hiding in plain sight. I mean, I'm going to keep going on Brandon Williamson. Started the year with shoulder inflammation. Shut down. Came back in May. Pitched really well in 3 starts. Had shoulder inflammation again. That's when you should have just shut him down for the full year.
Yeah, there was something going on that it hasn't been solved. So let's put it in the hands of the medical staff. Let's see what's going on here.
Yeah, young pitcher who could have pitched in 2025, but will no longer be able to do it because of a different injury It's crazy. So you don't want the team to literally have ligaments and muscles implode in these last 5 games and be like, all right, let's see if we can get down the stretch.
Yeah, at least he toughed it out, though.
Yeah, really toughed it out. Yeah, cool. Good on you, dude. Instead of thinking about the future. Insane. So I wish David the best of luck. I think that what he and Krall did together by bringing the organization, minors and majors as a whole, into the 21st century with a lot of tech and streamlining baseball operations, be it like catching programs, hitting programs, fielding programs, all of that. The pitching program, especially with Derek Johnson, that's stuff that other organizations were doing, and the Reds were not doing that until David Bell got there.
So that's a good thing. That's a nice thumbprint that he's leaving on the Reds organization here, and there was definitely a lot of fun memories with him. I'll say that. I loved seeing him yell and get tossed out. Yeah, I'd love to see that, but then, you know what? If he would have done that on a microphone and held some players accountable publicly, he might still have a job. Yeah, he was called a players manager. I'm not sure if that just means he didn't hold them accountable or just said, you can tough it out, right? Like that whole thing where it's just like, you don't got to listen to the management. I'm your buddy here. Yeah. So not playing, not doing the hard stuff with the manager, which is getting in somebody's business and telling them why they aren't succeeding. Yeah, that's what a manager in any level does. They try to get the most out of their employees and or players. And it didn't seem like he was doing that. He would just be like, yeah, I got your back when I get to yell at an umpire. Yeah, no one can tell me that I'm not doing my job. If I'm getting tossed out and they see me yelling on camera, I'm doing my job. Yeah, we'll just be better. No, say that the reason you lost this game was because they went off script and stole second base, and say, and that's something we need to fix. Call out the reason, say that we need to fix it. Maybe that's something he can do at his next gig. Mm-hmm. When he goes back and he works for the fucking Cardinals. I'm calling it now, dude. Next year, 2025, David Bell is going to be the bench coach of the St. Louis Cardinals. I can see it. Just, then he'd have the David Bell revenge tour. Yeah. Oh, man. I wish him the best, but, dude, I cannot wait to bash whatever team, dugout he's playing in. Yeah, me too. Who knows? He might get out of Miami. A bit of news that wasn't surprising and encouraging was that Derek Johnson is sticking around through the 2025 season. He's under contract. He's here. That's another guy that I hope that they can give him an extension, because his department was one of the things that excelled and succeeded. I mean, look at what he's doing with Jacob Junis, who's going out there throwing 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run,
1 walk, 3 Ks.
Yeah.
Jacob Junis.
Yeah, this time we're having a lot of our starting pitchers being out. It didn't seem to miss a beat with these younger guys stepping in. So that's something that's working, so we don't need to fix it.
Don't fix it. Don't fix when ain't broke, and extend it. I want DJ around forever.
Ditto.
And I don't think he has any desire to be a manager. I think he just wants to keep being in his pitching lab and developing great pitching.
I love that. Keep him.
Keep him in the building, extend him, keep him around, and have him work with whoever the new manager is.
Yeah, I mean, we've been one of the brighter spots in the year, both starting, pitching, and bullpen. Also, Tyler Stevenson, not sure how much he's working, with the pitching coach, but there can't not be an effect.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. Did you see what Tyler said after the Bell news? He came out and he was a part of the press conference.
I saw a little bit of it.
So he said that David was holding some of the players accountable. But the big thing he said is, he did create a good culture. He was a good leader. He was a good guy. But we would like to be held a little bit more accountable. And we would like a leader that's going to come in here and take us to the next level and show us how to win. I was like, that's what I'm talking about.
Love it.
That's what I'm talking about. You say something nice and then be like, yeah, we definitely needed an upgrade in voice in there.
Yeah, you give your flowers and you point out some thorns as well.
Yeah. And so, Freddie Benavides has been promoted to interim manager. J.R. House is the bench coach. Colin Cowgill's at third, and now I forget who's at first. So that's how that looks.
Now, who's at first? Yeah, you got it.
Who's at first? What's at second? Come on.